we're saving on average about 10% capex against normal project values. So when we're looking at, given the scale of infrastructure projects, those are really significant dollar savings that we're seeing and achieving better sustainability outcomes.
Welcome back to Infrastructure Connections, the podcast where we explore what makes sustainable infrastructure work. Brought to you by the Infrastructure Sustainability Council, I'm your host, Seth Scott, and today we'll be speaking with Toby Kent. You might remember Toby from episode 1. Toby is the CEO of the Infrastructure Sustainability Council. Prior to this, he worked for PwC Australia, where he served as a partner in the energy transition. He co-founded and managed ResilientCo Consulting and has been an active board member of the Business Council for Sustainable Development Australia for 4 years. Toby, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back, Seth, and hello to all our listeners.
So we've seen some amazing stats come out of our 2025 fiscal year impact report, and I wanted to start there. What did we do differently this year?
Over the course of this past year, I think we've spent a lot of time really working out on how we deliver value to our users and members, be that through revising the membership model, member committees, and so on. A lot of that work happened in the 2024-25 year. Also, a huge amount of work to get ready for the revised version 2.2 rating tool design and as-built rating tool that is now out in the market. But those kind of things took up a lot of that reporting period. And in terms of where both sort of signaling a direction of travel for ISC, but also what we did differently, I'm really pleased that we're better able to start putting some financial numbers around the savings that were associated with IS ratings. And so that was great. Some of the training impacts, we continue to grow our footprint there. And so while I'm not sure that was fundamentally different, it was really more building on the legacy and platform that was in place. I think now, as we go into the 25-26 year, with partnerships that we'll soon be announcing with major universities, with our impact pathways training and so on. I think that's now what is ahead of us is fundamentally different. But I think there's a lot that the team and all of our various users and members should be really proud of about the actual impacts that occurred as a result of our work last year.
The ISC certified 29 as-built projects across rail, road, energy, and water, and they achieved combined emissions of 3.5 million tons of CO2e, as well as waste diversion reductions and material reductions. Yeah. But one of the things we did differently this year is it looks like we put the financial value of those numbers together. What did those numbers come out to?
Yeah, I mean, at the highest level, Seth, so it's important to understand that we only used dollar values where there is a broadly agreed industry dollar value to put to it. So, there are actual costs of sending waste to landfill and so on. Similarly, we use the Infrastructure Australia's agreed relatively conservative dollar value for emissions. So across those almost 30 projects, we saw about 76% average emissions avoided, 29% reduction in energy use, overall a 5% reduction in water use, which in and of itself doesn't sound massive, important, but not massive. But actually, we've seen potable water reductions of 3/4 against a normal basis, so 76% on certain projects, and a huge waste amount diverted from landfill. And in Australia, which has high waste levels, then that's a really important win. And so I hear you say, or our listeners thinking, that's all fine, we didn't answer the question. So what is the dollar value? And we're seeing that for all of these projects, on average, they amount to about 10% of normal built as usual capex. So we saw across those almost 30 projects about $1.2 billion in savings. And so, again, for any single project, given the scale of spend on your most infrastructure projects, a 10% capex saving is a really material outcome.
That sounds like value for money.
Yeah, I mean, for us at the ISC, we've always been about demonstrating better business as usual, and that means, really using sustainability to make sure that we are getting better profits, or our members and users are getting, as I said, better profits, by which I mean better for the world, better for the business. And so it really, for us, underscores the fundamental principle that sustainability doesn't have to be a cost. It can be a cost saving, as well as a whole bunch of other benefits.
So we saw 59 project certifications last year, with 15 new projects registering. That's pretty good in the kind of atmosphere of economics that we had in the last year, I would think.
What the team has done such a marvelous job of doing, and again supported by so many of our users and members, is to make sure that we have not reduced the sustainability expectations associated with those tools, but we've reduced a lot of the administrative burden that was unintentionally built into the previous 2.1 version. And so we're doing our utmost to make sure that not only can we help be part of those 10% capex savings, but we're also helping to achieve them, or achieve the rating in the most effective and cost-effective ways.
It must be easy to be supportive of these projects when we're seeing these kinds of fantastic outcomes. I mean, 59 projects and 21 of them were certified at leading or gold award level, with another 23 at excellent or silver level. What do you think is driving these high ratings in the last year?
I think a few things. One is how they were procured. So in a number of cases, a lot of proponents had demanded that they wanted a certain outcome, and people built to the standards to make sure that they achieved that gold rating, silver rating, etc. And on that, we actually don't necessarily advise that the best way to approach an IS rating is to say what level you want to to achieve, but rather to say what are the real outcomes that you want to see, where are the most important sustainability achievements you want to be met. And then we will work with the proponent and or the contractor, the designers, of whoever. So, well, if you do all that, that would equate to such and such a level. Nonetheless, we're obviously delighted that those proponents who demanded a certain outcome achieve them, because fundamentally that means more sustainable outcomes on the ground. So that was part of it. In terms of some of the excellent ratings and so on, and this also touches on why we evolved the standard at all, but we have seen that as the sector, the direct infrastructure sector and its adjacent parties have become more skilled at sustainability, we are seeing more and more organizations actually delivering really, really good outcomes.
At the same time, you released the ISC 2030 strategy. Big picture, tell us what it's about and how does it compare to the last one, and why now?
Big picture, this is fundamentally about ISC providing even more value back into the market. Really seeing ourselves as evolving to become a fundamental part of the infrastructure ecosystem across Australia and New Zealand. We've revised our purpose statement. We talk about enabling connected infrastructure that supports people to thrive on a healthy planet. And part of that, providing more value back into the sector, is really using the insights that we gain from doing ratings to be able to support better outcomes between different assets, really starting to, we're starting now, but looking ahead, really being able to provide much greater, as I say, value to people so that they can see, how have different ratings been achieved. So when you look at our data, we have really pretty thorough ESG performance data, ranging from everything from indigenous procurement spend through to water use, embodied carbon, across over $400 billion worth of Australian and New Zealand infrastructure assets. So a critical part of the strategy and ISC's future is being able to make sure that people can get more insight about how different assets are performing, have performed, which techniques, approaches, materials are helping to achieve the different outcomes. And that then flows through as well into the broader offering about how we help to identify and lift up new technologies, how we provide greater value back to our different users. And really, while we do it beautifully at times through events like IS Connect or IS Practitioners Network, but really being a greater convening and not in a commercial way a broker, but in an outcomes, bringing parties together for greater collective benefits, more of a broker of outcomes for the sector.
And I understand you do that through the EPIC system, EPIC values.
Yes, we did take a look at our values, and I was very pleased that when we looked at all the feedback and engaged with the team, we determined that our values are indeed EPIC. And so what that reflects is expertise, and we're really clear as part of our value proposition that we both need to be experts. We highly value expertise, but also recognize that where we are not experts, we will work with those who are to help achieve the outcomes that are needed. We also, and it flows from that point about recognizing where we're not the experts, is about partnership. And really, we are a membership organization. We are a fundamental convener of the infrastructure sector, and we really need to make sure that we are an active and good partner in terms of how we go to market. Building from who we are as an organization, we are a for-purpose outfit, and so impact sits very much, therefore, at the core of our values, and so we want to be more market supportive. But why do we want to do that? Is fundamentally so we see better impact on the ground. And so that's part of it. And then there's an element which also then flows from that point about impact, which is around care. We want to demonstrate care to one another as a team. We want to demonstrate care in how we use the resources of our members. Care felt like equally, as I say, a really important value to the team as a whole.
One of the strengths of the ISC is playing to our thought leadership, where we're connecting thought leadership with real-world policy. What are we focusing on in the next years for our strategy?
Part of the feedback from members was actually wanting more working committees. And so we have stood those up for this year. And so we now have 7 member committees, all of which, or not all of which, many of which, in one way or another, will be feeding through into new thought leadership and also supporting our advocacy positions and really helping to represent our members, as you say, with policymakers, regulators, and so on. And so we do have a standalone policy and advocacy committee. So I'm really pleased about that. We've also got committees around sustainable procurement, capability, which is both understanding from the sector how we lift up the sustainability capabilities of others, as well as what they want to see through ISC's own training programs. We've got a reignited contractor working group. We've got an ongoing working group around modern slavery, and then 2 new ones, which I am both really pleased about, but also I see as fundamentally important, around AI and digital. In infrastructure, we've got a piece of work going on right now as we both as you and I talk and as the podcast is released around digital in infrastructure and digital infrastructure. And so that will be, and so just sort of on that, what I mean by that is there's not a lot of sustainability oversight of a lot of the poles, wires, towers, and a whole bunch of the assets that are fundamental to achieving and delivering our digital backbone that is a critical part of modern infrastructure. Equally, we're looking at what is our role in supporting the use of digital in traditional infrastructure. So anyway, that's going on, and that'll be picked up in part by that committee. And then the final one is around sustainable finance, and this is because we're seeing more and more expectations of financiers being able to understand and report upon the impacts of their investments, but also we've got some great examples where IS ratings are now being used to support and or underpin sustainable finance mechanisms. And so we see it as a really important part of our future in terms of being able to support that part of the sector, as well as seeing as government are pushing more and more into or looking more and more to the private sector to meet infrastructure needs, our ability to play a role in there is really, really critical.
One of the other exciting things happening right now is the introduction of the version 2.2 for design and as-built. Tell us about why that developed and what makes it different and what can people expect out of it.
Again, we are, as sustainability expectations change, as the market changes, so our tools have to evolve. And what had happened was we had got to a point where our 1.2 rating tool was, for certain parts of the market, was being achieved in there as expressed by the market, by the users of the tool. It was being achieved too easily. It was no longer lifting standards to the extent that it should. As we evolved it, we inadvertently built in too many processes, too much administration, and frankly, in certain cases, too much duplication of effort to achieve the 2.1 rating tool. So with 2.2, it maintains the rigor of the 2.1 standard, but it is really much more focused on being easier to use. We took a really we always work with industry, and working with industry, we determined that of the 37 credits in the full rating tool, 12 were fit for purpose. 25 of the 37 were updated. We also removed over 100 what are called must statements. And so just giving a little bit more flexibility in how some of the guidance is interpreted and implied. And I think one of the really big changes is that for projects under $500 million in value, so basically from $100 to $500 million, they are able to screen out a number of the requirements. And so overall, still ensuring great outcomes, great sustainability outcomes through infrastructure, but while again enabling it to scale down. One of the things that's going to provide a real benefit to the market is our revised approach to verification. So historically, and for good reasons, projects would have two independent verifiers reviewing in advance of their certification. What we've done, we were aware that we were finding too many inconsistencies that was leading to confusion and at times delays in project delivery for some of our users, but also in certain cases an overinvestment in projects because people weren't necessarily sure what outcomes were going to be assessed as adequate. So what we've done is to bring or create an in-house quality control function. And so then we will really be making sure that when projects come to verification, we still absolutely stand by the importance of independent verification, and that will be done by one of our well-established external verifiers. And then what our role through the quality control function will be is to make sure that the projects are only being assessed on the base case, the materiality assessment they set at the beginning of the project, and how they perform relative to the technical manual. So it may not sound in and of itself groundbreaking, but having tested this a lot before we rolled it out, and based on the initial feedback that we're getting from both projects and our verifiers, we're really seeing that we're getting this is going to be a really significant improvement in the market and our ability to meet the needs of it.
Yeah, I think so too. We're definitely getting that feedback. So I understand along with this 2030 strategy and version 2.2, we've also had to revamp our training, and it's aligning with these new systems. Can you give us an overview of the new IS Professionals pathway?
Yeah, sure. Fundamentally, the Professionals pathway is a 5-week program with about 20 hours of coursework in total. And so what the new model does, it blends 10 self-paced modules that build both theory and systems knowledge alongside the 9 facilitated workshops where the participants actually apply what they've learned in simulated real-world contexts. Yeah, no, we're really pleased about that, and we think we'll see equal excitement, I hope, from our users.
What's the benefit of blending self-paced modules now with the workshops?
There are very few of our users, broader stakeholders, who are not busy. And so what the self-paced modules allow us to do is to build on that theoretical knowledge and the systems understanding in the sort of the set work. And then with the workshops, they really allow participants to test that knowledge in practice and collaborate with peers and so on. And so it's that both the increased flexibility, but also the enhanced experiential elements of it that makes it all worthwhile. And as I say, to go back to the specific question, that self-blended bit, that self-paced bit is an important part of facilitating that.
How much commitment does that take per week for participants?
Yeah, I mean, if you see it as a 5-week undertaking, about 3 to 4 hours per week should do it. And then there are 13 hours. How that splits is 13 hours of workshops and about 6 of self-paced learning.
What are they going to learn when they take these courses?
Yeah, I mean, it is called the IS Practitioners Training, and so, really importantly, it is about them being confident in applying the IS rating framework, but also gives really good instruction, or at least advice, in how to engage stakeholders both within the an organization and outside it, how to document materiality assessments and sustainability management plans, how to set up the base case, prepare submissions, and respond to verification feedback. And so I think that's sort of what it's designed to do at its core, but actually what we're seeing, and this is really building from what we've done in the past as well, and I think takes us a step further, is helping people to gain broader skills around critical thinking and embedding sustainability into decision making.
We'll put a link for the register in the comments below this. That'll be good.
Yeah.
Are there any other ISC courses or opportunities for ISAPs to further engage with or build on their accreditation?
No, absolutely. So beyond the IS Professionals pathway, we've got open to all members and ISAPs are ongoing professional webinars, annual ISAP days, there are working groups. I've obviously touched on earlier some of our new member committees, which people might want to look at joining. And while that's not a training thing as design, I think it's a great opportunity for many people for ongoing professional development. We've got the RISE mentoring program, and we'll be announcing our new sponsors and partners for RISE soon. we're really grateful to Gamuda, who's sponsored RISE over the past few years, and again, the participants have had absolutely incredible feedback from both the mentees, but also the mentors through that program. And then there are things like IS for Managers course, IS for Execs, and of course our industry conferences, which we always are keen to see people at. So, I mean, all of these are designed to deepen knowledge, strengthen networks, and from that ISAP perspective, give our ISAPs a platform to contribute both to their ongoing development and to the future of sustainable infrastructure.
It'll be good to get that kind of training and knowledge moving forward. There's a lot happening in the industry. What do you see looking forward to the next 5 years? What is the exciting challenges and opportunities coming our way?
So I think I'll kind of break it into a couple of parts, and obviously ISC has a role in all of them. But so one is within ISC, and perhaps I'll finish on that point. But I'm really excited about. We're going through a transition period. A lot of companies are struggling, particularly in Australia, and for those impacted by European Union, corporate sustainability reporting directives, and so on. So a lot of our users and members really struggling with the carbon piece now, but it is a moment of transition, and I think what we're going to start to see by the next 5 years is really sophisticated work on decarbonization really becoming mainstream in a way that we have never seen to date. Perhaps in some ways even more energizing will be really more sophisticated approach to nature-based solutions. Infrastructure has traditionally forward-looking infrastructure has been seen as how do we mitigate our impact on the environment, whereas I think within the next 5 years we're going to start to see, particularly in the water sector but beyond as well, how do we use natural infrastructure to achieve those outcomes that we want from our infrastructure. That's going to be so critical to climate adaptation, to creating more livable places for people, and obviously for nature and the environment of which we are a part. One of the lines I sometimes use there in relation to this is that our traditional concrete, asphalt, grey infrastructure necessarily depreciates over time. But one of the beauties of natural infrastructure, it's not that it doesn't require maintenance, but it almost inevitably appreciates. Its value increases the longer that it is there. And I think that's a beautiful and wonderful opportunity. And I think as well, when you start to put those two things together, and as we look at work underway across Australia and New Zealand and well beyond, we may be getting close to that sort of third pillar of sustainability around the circular economy. We're so unadvanced in relation to circularity at the moment. We mainly talk about recycling, which is really not a circular economy. The clue is in the name. It is about a fundamental restructure of how we do business and how we run our economies to be more regenerative, restorative, etc. And so while I've focused on the carbon and the ecosystem natural piece, I do think circularity over the next 5 years will really come to the fore, and those different elements are self-reinforcing. As we get better in any one of them, we will get better outcomes in the other two. And so obviously there's a fundamental role for ISC in helping to set the frameworks that encourage those kind of behaviors and to help proponents and users of the ratings, as well as those outside who want to know what the impacts are, to monitor and achieve those outcomes. So I'm excited that that all fits within our 5-year strategy. I'm excited that over the next 5 years we'll be are an important part of helping to achieve those outcomes, and that, to go right back to the beginning when you asked about it, that we'll be providing insights and data to the market to support better decision making, better policy outcomes.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to it. It looks like the ISC has a plan.
Certainly does, and you're very much part of it, Seth. So I'm looking forward to hearing a 5-year review led by you on this podcast, clearly in 5 years.
Well, I hope to have you back on the show before 5 years.
Well, I hope that I'm invited.
Thank you very much for being on, Toby.
Nice one, Seth. Many thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
All the best.
Thank you for listening to Infrastructure Connections. Please take a moment to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and we want your feedback. Leave a comment down below to let us know your thoughts, or drop us a line at the Infrastructure Sustainability Council. Until then, stay tuned for the next episode of Infrastructure Connection.